Hey, this is Meridith Elliott, Powell. It is 8 a.m. Saturday morning. You know what time it is. It is actually the last Saturday of 2023 and time for Sales Logic. Hey, Mark, how are you doing today?
I am doing absolutely terrific. It is the last day of the year. We're talking 2024. Isn't it amazing?
I know, it is amazing. It is amazing. And did you have a good holiday?
Had a great holiday. Other than spilling a cup of coffee about 5 minutes ago, I'm doing okay.
All right. Well, we'll hit the intro so you can go ahead and clean the coffee up.
Okay.
All right, welcome back to Sales Logic, and hopefully Mark has his coffee all cleaned up. We are ready to go. This is a really important show, the last show of 2023, talking about what we need to do to sell effectively in 2024. Next week, we've got the first week of January coming up. We want to hit the ground running. Now, before Mark tells you what we've got on tap for today, I always like to tell you how the show works. If you want to be featured here, and we would love to have you featured, just send a question in and we'll talk about it right here on Sales Logic. We have a hot topic. We recommend a book. And because we want you to leave with return on investment, we have a lightning round. So Mark, what is up for today?
Well, what's on tap today? We're going to talk about how do you create the most effective prospecting list for 2024? How do you build it? How do you nurture it? How do you expand it? How do you close it? All those steps to create that most effective list. And hey, the question this week comes from Letitia in upstate New York. She writes, my sales team has a challenging year in front of us. Mergers and acquisitions are going to disrupt our market like crazy. As I look at this first sales huddle of the year, how do I prepare my team? How do I get them ready?
What a great question. What great insight to know that you've got a lot of disruption coming in the marketplace. You're dealing with the reality. So I'm going to say, number one, get the team talking about the disruptions that they see coming in the marketplace. So I like to do it this way. I like to say to my team, here's 10 minutes. Let's just talk about all the challenges we've got in front of us for the next 10 minutes. And then after 10 minutes, you have to stop talking about challenges and start talking about solutions. So it may sound a little odd, but I would start, before I ever talked about prospects, I would talk about what the marketplace holds for us in 2024. And in a minute, I'll tell you why.
Well, and here's the thing. I love this idea of get all that stuff out on the table, because here's the deal. The valleys are never as deep as you think they are. People always they can bemoan, this is going to fall apart. No, it rarely does. The key is to have a plan as to how you're going to handle it. And the plan starts with, really, is everybody on the same page? And that's why that first huddle for you, Letitia, is so important. You got to get the team all on the same page. I want to hear this idea that you're talking about.
So the reason that I want to talk about the challenges is because if you want to build an effective prospect list this year, you have to understand what the problems are. Like, you really have to understand that prospects, it's so much more than just choosing a target to focus on. I mean, I could decide next year that I'm going to call on banks, and that's my prospect list, is all bankers. But big banks have very, very different opportunities in the marketplace than community banks do. Banks that focus on commercial lending are very different than ones who focus maybe on ag or on retail. So you need to begin, if you want to build a prospect list, by really understanding what the problem is in the marketplace that you can most effectively solve.
And I love that, because what that means is you don't start with the product. You start with the solution you provide. You start with the solution and you work your way back up. Now, Letitia, I'm going to put a heavy responsibility on you. You have got to get out with your salespeople the first few weeks. In fact, you've also got to get out on your own. Here's why. And I'm going to tell this to all sales managers, any sales leaders, CEOs, anybody listening to this, watching this right now. You have got to get out there for one reason, because you have the ability to have conversations with people that your salespeople can't. It's your job to start opening up doors and identifying big opportunities early in the year. These are going to be big opportunities that may take a long time to close. So the faster you and your counterparts, your CEO, your COO, your president, whoever, get the top people out there talking to customers, because it's going to help open doors for your salespeople. But please stay in your lane. Just as what Meridith was talking about, banks aren't all the same. Identify that sweet spot of where you can make the most impact at and stay right there.
Yeah. So here's another thing that I would do with this first sales huddle, because that's what you asked us, how to shape the first sales huddle. So I'd give them 10, 15 minutes and I would put a timer on it. I would just say, tell me every pain point you've got, everything that you're worried about. Then we'd spend the next 30 to 45 minutes brainstorming ideas. The next thing you want to do is a great exercise for the very first week in January is make a list of your top 10 to top 20 customers, each individual salespeople, those customers last year that paid your prices, bought your products, or are singing your praises. Then send your sales team out the first week to just interview these people. Tell us what you're thinking about for 2024. Where are your biggest challenges? Where are your biggest opportunities? If you could spend money in one place, where would it be and why? And ask them not to sell a single thing, but to take a lot of notes. Because what you're really looking for at this point are what are the biggest opportunities and biggest challenges in the marketplace, not from your sales team's perspective, but from your customer's perspective. And there's no more relevant idea of how to sell effectively in the marketplace than to talk to your customers.
This is what I call the opportunity index. You got to create an opportunity index of all your customers and where, because this is going to help you then begin to identify where you allocate your resources. And resources may also be your subject matter experts in the company. Where can you deploy them? Who can you send them out? It is so key that in this first huddle, that Letitia, you come away with a game plan as to how you want to allocate resources beyond your sales team. Because if you set the tempo and you set the tone right from the start of the year, it's amazing how they'll dance with you all year long. What do I mean by this? You may have some subject matter experts in your company who are absolutely technically proficient or operational, whatever it might be, whatever the business you're in. You start getting them out with customers early in the year. You know what? They're going to be in the groove and they're going to be with you all year long. And guess what? Those people are going to help you close bigger and bigger deals.
Yeah. I want to make sure that, you have a really good description of your ideal target market, literally creating a set of criteria for your ideal target market. Mark and I talked a moment ago about banks, and for most salespeople, just picking an industry is picking a target market. And you really need to go far deeper than that. I like to use a criteria of 9. I don't know why I chose 9. I don't think there's a rhyme or reason to it. But when I go and I call on somebody that's in my target market area, I'm interviewing them. I'm trying to figure out how many of my 9 questions they can answer with yes. And I have to have at least 6 of the 9 in order for me to pursue that. So if you know you're having a tough year coming up, if you know it's going to be challenging, you want to make sure that your salespeople aren't wasting time calling on deals that don't qualify. And go ahead, Mark.
No, go.
No, go ahead.
This is fascinating. I love what you talk about on this 9. Go.
So anyway, I want my salespeople to go out there and I want them to be in the first call, literally doing a prospect call. So often salespeople are thinking to themselves, I really want this deal. But the truth is, do you really? If you have a challenging year in front of you and you think it's going to be harder to close deals, and you're probably right, with a lot of mergers and acquisitions, you're going to just get through a deal and that sucker is going to merge and the thing's going to be lost. So you're right. So having your team interview based on these 9 questions and literally have them check it off. If they meet 6 of the 9, they set up a second call. If they don't, they let it go and they move on. They move on to the next deal.
What I love about what you're talking about here is companies don't buy anything. It's people who buy things. It's people. And your questions have got to focus in on, and this is what your 9 questions do, is they focus in on, am I dealing with that right person? And can I provide a solution that's going to help them? So many times, and this comes back to the fault that so many people make at the beginning. We talk about this right up at the top of the show. The industry. I'm going to pick an industry. An industry is almost irrelevant. It's the position. It's the department. It's getting deep down inside that. And that's where the sale is actually made. Because here's the other deal. If I connect with the right person to solve the right problem to help them, that is naturally going to help me open up another door. That's going to help me open up another opportunity. And again, at the start of the year, what am I doing? I'm looking for as many of those opportunities as possible. Focus on the people, not necessarily the industry. Okay, the industry is going to point you in the right direction, but it's the people where the sale is made.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, you get across an industry, and they're dealing with so many different challenges and so many different opportunities in there. And your salespeople have to realize where you fit within that particular industry. The other thing I would say, Letitia, that's really important is revisit this every single quarter. Don't assume that the prospect list you built in January 1 of 2024 is the most effective prospect list March 31st of 2024.
And with that, it's going to be very easy for your salespeople to sit there and start talking about price. And I got an email just yesterday from a person who just a couple of weeks ago closed a major deal. And he said, Mark, it was one of the first times that I closed a deal not on price. And he was sharing it because it was the end of the year when it seems like price always comes up. He says, but I absolutely focused on what the solution was that the customer was looking for. So, Letitia, make sure your team is focused on the solution. I always say, if you're going to have a huddle, take a flip chart, piece of paper, whatever it is, and start brainstorming all the solutions that you provide, and just challenge your team. Okay, what is it that we need to do to get the conversation focused on the solution? Remember, it's not the product. The product you sell, the service you sell, is only the medium to help the customer achieve the outcome. That's what they're absolutely looking for.
Yeah.
Hey, Larry Long has jumped in. Boy, there's Mr. Energy, right? When it comes
to exactly. There's Mr. Energy and Mr. Sales Guru. I have no doubt in my mind Larry Long is selling today. What do you think, Mark?
I have a feeling he is, because he's always selling, because he understands the value. This comes back to the whole thing. He understands the importance of the relationship. Larry doesn't get hung up on the product. He gets hung up on the relationship, because every customer has got multiple options. Nobody sells anything that is so unique that it can't be replaced by somebody else. So what does that mean? If I don't understand the customer and the customer solution that they're looking for better than anybody else, I don't have a chance to make that deal. And Larry understands that well. He really dives in deep to understand the individual.
Mark, you're the prospecting guru. So as you think about our audience out there, what do you think that, our hope, we know, is that people have already built their prospect list, but if they didn't, they didn't build it yet, so there you are. It's what is today? Today, the 30th, correct?
Yep.
Where do people need to be focusing their time and their attention?
Well, this whole thing, again, I always say, start with where you left off. Who are the customers you've been buying from, and what are those identifiers? What are those markers that identify who those people are, and the solutions you've created and so forth, and then begin building it out from there. Here's the whole thing, though. This is so tempting for salespeople and sales teams at the beginning of the year, is to create too big of a prospecting list. Don't start what you can't finish, please. Okay, now you've been a big proponent of this, Meridith, because the economy is a little bit weird. You and I have some differences of opinion, but that's okay. We'll get into that in a separate show. And so we say you got to have a bigger list than you did before, right? A bigger list. It doesn't mean you have to have a massive list. And this is what's key. Leave the massive list to marketing. Let them deal with that. Stay in tight. I would much rather have 25 or 50 prospects that line up to my sweet spot than to have 200 names that I have no idea how I'm going to get in touch with. Or really, again, I have no idea if they're going to need my product. Stay tight, stay focused. Start with where you left off with last year.
Great advice. I typically start with 100. But this year I started with 150 because I do think that this year is going to be challenging. But by March 31st, I will have graded those into A, Bs, and Cs. And I'll have about 50 to 75 of the 150 on my C list. And I'll really be working those A's and B's to really close deals. So I have those qualifiers out there.
See, now what you're doing is you're creating a list that fits your business model. This is what's key. Don't take what we share and say, oh, well, Meridith said I need to have X number, and that's what I need to have. No, you have to take whatever fits your business model. This is what's so key. Again, like I'm at any one time chasing about 10 very close in lead, very close in. And I've got probably 50 to 75 that are hanging out there that are kind of my B's and C's. And I kind of treat them the same. See, my business model is a little bit different than Meridith's. And then Meridith and I both have kind of a bigger marketing list. You know, we both email out to larger lists and so forth. And occasionally stuff bubbles up from there. But again, it's absolutely key. Now, here's the other key. When you're developing prospecting at the beginning of the year, who are the partners that you can connect with? Who are the partners? Who are the people who can refer you in? Who are the people that you can connect with? Who are the people? And I'll tell you what, if you don't have a list of at least half a dozen people there in that, I tell you what, you are going to be really hurting when it comes time to make your number for 2024. Create that list. Who are the real tight partners that you can refer business to, connect with, and so forth. And then a little bit expand out. Now, again, the size of your list, the size of this group is going to vary by your business model, but don't forget that side of the business.
Yeah, Mark, you're making such a great point. I mean, Mark does huge consulting jobs, and he goes in with a company and he stays all year, sometimes multiple years. So when he closes a deal, he's closed a huge deal that's going to repeat and repeat and repeat. My model is different. I mean, my model is more of, a section of it is more of a one-off. So I've got to have a lot more moving through the pipeline. So you got it. That is such a great point and really, really understanding. And to your other point, I think Natalie, a member of our mastermind here, networking across the prospects organization opens doors and helps provide the right solution in times of constant change. Having those relationships built deep and wide in an organization, really, really important.
That is so key, because I have watched so many times where an account manager, a salesperson will have a wonderful customer, wonderful, great, and it's a big account. And then their contact gets moved to a different division or quits or leaves or something like that. And suddenly they're like back to square one. Hello, you have to create. And what you do is you create, look at the size of the opportunity, the size of the business you do with the customer. And from that, you base the number of relationships you need to have. We'll say that it's $1 million is your customer. This is what your customer is worth to you each year. Okay, great. And maybe you say, okay, for every $1 million business, I have to have 3 contacts. So I got to have 3 contacts. So if you get a $2 million a year account, you need to have 6 contacts. If you get a $300,000 a year, you only need to have 1 contact. But you need to have the number of contacts relative to the amount of opportunity you have with that customer. And those relationships aren't just with you and that person, you, the salesperson, but it's also with your manager, other people. In other words, you always got to create backstop. Succession planning. Gee, that's something you talk a lot about.
Just a little bit.
And succession planning works and is absolutely critical in sales. I love what Dave Sanderson's saying. I focus on my top 20 and then farm team to help me focus on the top 25 prospects. I love that idea.
Yeah. All right, Mark, what is the book for today? And let's head into the lightning round.
Yeah, the book today. Wow, time is moving. Hey, Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blunt. You and I have known Jeb for a number of years. And Fanatical Prospecting came out now probably about 10 years ago.
Yeah.
You go out to Amazon and it's selling like crazy because I'll tell you what, it is an absolute great playbook. If I had enough time, I'd find it here on my shelf.
I've got it. I think I've got it in my closet, but it's right up there with your book on prospecting. And I just love the word fanatical in front of it because such a good description of how you really need to be across prospecting. But Larry, thanks for the comment here. Yeah, having different plays and processes for the A-listers and B teams, because where you're going to find your future A's, they're sitting in your C's.
Oh, yeah. I like that. That was a mic drop. I love that. Yeah. Hey, are you ready for the lightning round?
I am.
Top 10 sales priorities for the new year. Go.
Well, number one, let's just go with what we've been talking about. Really get clear on the right target market.
Go back and review all of your previous customers. Look for the opportunities. Where is undeveloped business that you can develop from existing customers?
Yeah. Number three, focus on identifying what are the chief challenges and opportunities for 2024. Where are the pain points for your customers?
And do that. Refresh who that target list is. What is that avatar, that perfect customer that you're looking for? Make sure you refresh that at the beginning of the year so you stay on target.
Yeah, I would say set up your monthly reviews of your sales process. At the end of every month, really look back and say, what did I do that worked, that moved the needle forward, where wasn't effective, and consistently be adjusting your sales process.
We can talk about having the great process, but unless you set the time, it's totally irrelevant. A sales priority is to make sure that you have time allocated on your calendar daily to be doing the prospecting that you know you need to be doing.
Yeah. Number 7, you need to be tracking sales behaviors. Really get into the habit of tracking the sales behaviors consistently so you know what you're doing and what is working and what is not.
Go back and take a look at all the questions that you've been asking over the previous year. Oh, you're not making a list? You better start making a list of all the questions because it's not what we share with customers. It's the questions we ask. Get the questions and then begin to ask yourself, how do I revise them? How do I update them? How do I make them more relevant for today's marketplace? You share one more, I'll share one more. We'll close it down.
Yeah, I would say number 9, sales priority is update that CRM. I've been cleaning mine out this whole holiday season, and get that CRM in shape and be diligent in keeping it updated.
And full confession, like I said, 10 minutes, about 5 minutes before we began the show, I spilled coffee on 3 pages of notes that were to go into my CRM system. But you're right, this is key. You've got to spend time right now making sure that CRM, because your CRM is your secret weapon for success. Hey, with that, we want to say thank you for listening to Sales Logic. If you like what you hear, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. Something we've said has earned you a single dollar. Consider telling a friend about our show because it's how we grow when we help you grow. I'm Mark Hunter.
And I'm Meridith Elliott Powell.
Remember, when you sell with confidence and integrity,
all of this uncertainty suddenly becomes your competitive advantage.
And the sale becomes logical.
Yeah, probably the biggest sales priority you need is to go check out saleslogicpodcast.com, join the mastermind, and together we are going to make 2024 your best year on record. Everybody have a really safe, happy new year. We'll see you right back here next week, Saturday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern for another episode, first episode in 2024 of Sales Logic.